Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to another edition, a special edition of the Basketball Fiends podcast, brought to you by the Our Esquina Podcast Network. I am hosting today, of course, yours truly, Alex Aguilera, and with me is a friend of the program, the show, whatever. It is Mr. Gavin Good, who is bylined in multiple states with, well, actually, more recently, the Chicago Tribune. I mean, I'm showing some love there because, I mean, obviously it's my hometown, but he's also bylined in the Times of the Northwest Indiana. If I hope I got that right, because I know I always bungle.
You did,
right? I did get it. Okay, because I know.
Thanks for having me on.
Yeah.
It's good to be here, and I always love talking basketball. An honor to sort of fill in for Jesus, but I know that he can never be replaced. So
yeah, no, it's all good. But you're my boy, and I mean, I guess let's just get into it. And I know, Gavin, you've been covering, well, I mean, we both covered Illinois basketball when we first met, when we were freshmen. God, it's been so long already. But Illinois basketball is currently ranked 10 right now, but they just dropped the game to Marquette on the road. Gavin, I guess initial thoughts from that game so far.
Man, they laid a stinker, and I don't know if this is just something that we have to come to expect for Brad Underwood teams. But it kind of showed some shades of that Loyola loss in the NCAA tournament. They kind of just really locked down Illinois' lead guard. I mean, it went from being Ayo Dosunmu to Andre Curbelo this time, and they didn't have their big man Kofi Coburn, and it showed. Coleman Hawkins is a promising sophomore for the Illini, but between 26 turnovers and not making enough timely shots when their offense was sputtering down the stretch, Marquette executed a good defensive game plan and really pulled one from under the Illini. And like you said, they have come a long way from our freshman year when they were in their first of two losing seasons under Brad Underwood, and before that with John Gross when they weren't very good for several years either. But I think this Illinois team is going to have some growing pains, and we saw the first significant episode of that. And especially for Andre Curbelo, I was actually just writing a story about him earlier, and fans were melting down over that loss, and I understand why. Illinois came in with a number 10 ranking, tons of hype behind this team. But Marquette is a pretty storied program. And, in their first year under Shaka Smart, expectations aren't very high. And they've had two losing seasons now the past 2 years. But they brought in Daryl Morcell from Maryland. He was a pretty good guard. And he scored on Illinois. He had his Maryland career high when Maryland upset Illinois at the State Farm Center in Champaign in January. And he scored, I think, 21 points in that win. But yeah, Andre Curbelo, man, tough game for him. My instant reaction, that's kind of it. But Curbelo got exposed big time, and Underwood didn't stop the bleeding. I thought maybe he could have called a timeout late on, but he let his guys go. What'd you think?
Yeah, I mean, I'm honestly right there with you. I mean, seeing Curbelo, I mean, we all know the super talent, or as a guard, he is super talented, very flashy. But I think in that Marquette game, you saw him trying to do a little bit too much. I always found, even last year as a freshman, he was a little bit careless with the ball. I think better ball security is something that he needs in his game. Because, I mean, yes, he's flashy. He can throw a perfect dime, when he needs to. But if not, I mean, he can get, like I said, he can get really careless and cause a lot of turnovers. And I want to say, I forgot how many turnovers Illinois had, but it was like the most we had since 2017. That was like our sophomore year.
26 turnovers they had.
Right. It was just, I'm watching the game and I was like, oh my God, I felt like I was on the baseline again when I was covering the team. I was like, what's going on, man? I was like, I thought we were over this. But I mean, I don't want to panic by any means. It's early on in the season. I think, like you said, Marquette is has a storied history. I think with Shaka Smart, I mean, what he did out in SF Austin, I believe, will eventually translate into Marquette pretty much the same way Brandon Underwood did when he was at Stephen F. Austin and now with the Illini. So, I mean, obviously Illinois is really gonna love having Kofi after that very absurd 3-game suspension that he got. I mean, it is what it is, but I guess my last question to you as far as Illinois basketball is, with the return of Kofi, are we gonna kind of see, I guess, a return to form for the Illini?
Yeah, short answer is yes. And for anyone who doesn't know, Kofi Coburn, Big Ten all preseason player of the year in the Big Ten, he got a 3-game suspension for selling some of his old Illini gear with the player's trunk when he had declared for the NBA draft, and before he realized he would be coming back to Illinois after he'd gone through that process and got his feedback. A very unpopular decision from the NCAA. Many Illini fans and people around the program were not happy with that ruling, but Kofi has now served it. This team is a lot. Maybe it was a bit of a reality check. I'm not sure that this loss is really going to hurt Illinois in the long run. I don't think Marquette's going to be a tournament team, but I think with Kofi back, it really solves a lot of the problems that were exposed in themselves. Like Curbelo, half those times he ended up turning the ball over. If he's passing that off to Kofi when he drives into the lane instead of pulling up for contested jumpers or layups over guys who have 6 to 8 inches on him. There was one time when Curbelo back-to-back possessions tried to go against a guy who was 6'10" from Marquette, and the guy swatted away each time. And more power to him for making the right play, but you're not going to be able to do that to Illinois in the paint when it's Kofi instead of Andre. And when Curbelo kind of rediscovers his patience a little bit, maybe, and realizes that, he doesn't have to carry this really big burden and he can just kind of be the engine of this team, I think Illinois, the sky is the limit for them. I think they can compete in the Big Ten. Michigan had a letdown loss this week as well, another Big Ten favorite. To Seton Hall, who I think is a better team than Marquette. But that was at home, and Michigan was, closer to full strength than Illinois. So I think this Illinois team's going to be fine. They have a week off now. They're back in action on Monday in Kansas City against Cincinnati. Then they'll play the winner of Arkansas and Kansas State the next night. So a little bit of time to kind of reassess for them. And then, even sturdier tests up next week.
All right. Well, now that you put it, the Illini, we're pretty confident that they'll be good. They'll get in the rhythm, but you do know who is in the rhythm is those Chicago Bulls. They are back coming off a 121-103 victory over those Los Angeles Lakers. Granted, they didn't have LeBron James, but it's the Lakers. They got Melo, they got AD, they got Russell. I forgot every Bradley's there, but hey, you know what? They got some household names on that Lakers squad, and right now, the Bulls are sitting 10-4. So, Gavin, I mean, hey, look, I know you're a Bulls guy. You definitely know I'm a Bulls guy. It's finally, it's so refreshing to see a Bulls team not only, I guess, being competitive, but also just looking so in sync.
Dude, this team plays as a cohesive unit. They play with swagger. You can tell that they're really feeling themselves and each other as a team right now. The Bulls didn't start off as, like the hottest team in the NBA right away, but they're on a pretty good run now. And I don't think, they've had this much success on a West Coast road trip in a while. The game's still going on right now, but they were up like 15 at Portland at halftime, which is, fairly impressive. I know Portland's not doing too great. But I'm impressed with the way this team is playing. I'm impressed with Lonzo Ball, especially. He's really taken the next step, and somewhere his dad is smiling and not saying any big proclamations or anything, but I'm sure he's thinking they made the right the right choice in him, arriving in Chicago. And I think Billy Donovan's got these guys playing well. They play good on defense, and of course, our mutual connection, Io DeSumo, also is factoring in nicely for them into the rotation as well. And now Kobe White is coming back as well, which helps the Bulls.
Yeah. And so, what, real quick, for those listening, you're probably wondering, wait, the Bulls are playing Portland, but that's on Wednesday. Well, we're recording on a Wednesday night, just, scheduling wise. I'm being accommodating to Gavin. He was grateful enough to hop on the podcast. So wanted to make sure that, I was mindful of his schedule and all that good stuff. But now, actually, you mentioned Kobe White. I don't mean to veer off here, but just a funny story. So at work, um, me and one of my coworkers, we were actually, talking about the Bulls, saying, how, oh man, they look really good, and they were getting ready to play the Lakers. And our other coworker, he's like, oh yeah, Kobe's coming back. And we looked at him, and we're like, what are you talking about? Like, what do you mean Kobe's coming back? And he's like, Kobe White, right? And we busted out laughing. Because
Man,
it,
yeah, that
it's
Kobe.
right.
R.I.P. Kobe Bryant. Nobody's coming back from the dead, although we all
No,
wish,
well,
R.I.P. Kobe.
we all wish that's the case. But anyway, I'm definitely getting off track. But I think you had mentioned that Lonzo Ball was the guy you were really looking at as far as the Bulls. And honestly, for me, I think it's DeMar DeRozan, and more specifically, I guess the talks around his signing. When the Bulls got him in the offseason, everyone was saying, "Oh, that's probably like the worst, free agent signing." Uh, I guess out of like the whole free agent frenzy that happens in the NBA, and it looks like it's one of the better ones, if not, I guess, the best signing as far as free agency goes in the NBA right now. And I mean, just him, he dropped, what is it? I think 38. Yeah, he did drop 38 on the Lakers last night with 6 assists. So I mean, just him complimenting as a scoring option aside from Zach LaVine and even Lonzo Ball too. I mean, he dropped 27 in that game as well. So now, like you said, they're just playing such cohesive basketball now where, everyone kind of like knows their role. Everyone gets their hands on the ball. It's just, like they play like a team, as cliche as it sounds. But I feel like, it's so refreshing to see now. Whereas I feel like now in the NBA, it's a lot of, one-on-one situations, a lot of ISOs where you let your KDs, your LeBrons, your Stephs kind of, take over at some points. But you kind of see with the Bulls where if one man's down, I mean, you kind of, if DeRozan's having an off game, that Levine or Ball may be able to come in and produce. So I mean, it's really cool to see.
It's been a pleasure to watch. And, I was quote running one game for the AP, and then that was the 76ers loss. And then a couple days later, me and my girlfriend were at the Nets game for our anniversary. And man, they were putting on a show in front of, a pretty lively United Center crowd. People are excited about this team. And, you mentioned DeMar. People are eating their words over
Yeah.
that signing from him. He's a little bit later in his career, right? And people weren't loving that. But it's too early. But he is up there with the best guys in the league right now, as far as how he's producing right now. You can't argue with him. He's averaging like 27 points per game right now, and that's just a little bit unreal. Lonzo's giving more scoring and more sharp shooting, which the Bulls needed for sure. Caruso is helping them out. I did think it was a little weird how he didn't manage to score any points against the Lakers, but he packed the stat book in other ways, made some of the intangible plays. And I've also thought that Derek Jones Jr. has been a good piece for this team as well. So I definitely think Bulls fans have a lot of reasons to be excited. It's still early, but everything we're seeing now is what you want to be seeing.
Yeah, and I want to circle back real quick. You mentioned the mutual connection with Ayo DeSumo out of Illinois. He's sort of filling that 6-man role that we kind of expect Kobe White to, or we expected Kobe White to do early on in the season. I mean, obviously, he was hurt, and was a second rounder. I forget which, 30 something. I
38
forget,
or something like that.
right, something like that. So I mean, obviously we know with his tournament performance, his stock kind of dropped a little bit. into the second round. And, when he got drafted by the Bulls, I think there was a lot of excitement involved. Obviously, he's a hometown kid, but we weren't sure, I guess, how he would fit into the mold. And I mean, early on, it's it's obviously, I mean, you and I, we've seen what he can do when he's at Illinois, but to just see it on a professional level and so early, uh, I mean, I feel like it's sort of a good, I guess, problem to have for the Bulls with Kobe White, coming back as well, because now I feel like you have a nice dual combo coming off the bench with those two.
Look, at this point, I mean, I think most people would be lying if they told you they thought Iowa was going to do this well when he first landed in the NBA. I think most of us thought, yeah, he was a surefire draft pick. When he went to the Bulls, I think everybody thought that was a good fit for him. Even people who, don't like the Bulls. Like my dad hates the Bulls, and he thought they were a good fit for him. So and it's really showing. He's averaging 15 minutes a game right now, I think, which is pretty impressive. I think that's probably going to get eaten into a little bit by a healthy Kobe White. But, maybe Iowa's not necessarily the first man off the bench like he has been some of these recent games. But I think he's carved out his spot in this rotation. He's earned the trust of Billy Donovan and certainly from his teammates. Levine has spoken really highly of him, and DeMar too. So, those guys, they're not going to bully you and say mean things about you publicly, but they don't have to say the things that they're saying. So I think that they really believe those things. And the future for Iowa is bright. And I think Kobe still has a bright future as well. Some people aren't as high on Kobe right now as they have been during his time with the Bulls. But I think he'll be reminding people that he is a great player too soon. And it's only a matter of time.
Yeah. All right. And so I guess as a last question on the Bulls before we move on is, I don't know if you had seen, but it was Steve Nash that had came out and said, had alluded to that, the Bulls were one of the more elite teams in the league, whereas, the Nets, obviously they're going through their motions. I think they'll be fine. But would you, I guess, consider the Bulls, I mean, personally, as excited as I am for the Bulls, I wouldn't consider them elite just quite yet, just because we're still early on. And I mean, some of their losses, granted, against some good teams, but I don't think the Bulls have quite, I guess, reached that elite tier with the Milwaukee's, or I don't know. I can't even say the Lakers anymore. I guess whoever is elite nowadays, I guess, do you think the Bulls are on track to maybe becoming an elite team later this year, or is that something we should wait on a little bit longer?
I got to preface this by saying Steve Nash knows a lot more about basketball than me. But no, I wouldn't call the Bulls. I wouldn't call the Bulls elite yet, right? I don't think the Lakers are really the team they once were. I think nobody can rule them out from getting there. But no, I don't think the Bulls are on the Warriors level right now. I don't think they're necessarily on the Suns level. The win over Dallas is great. The win over the Nets is great. I do think they're making a push, to be up there in the East, right? They're tied for first right now. Like you said, this is a Wednesday night, so that will have changed probably. But if the Bulls take care of business, they might still be tied for first on Friday when this comes out. But they're up there, man. And no, I wouldn't call them elite yet, but they're certainly pushing people. The 76ers showed that, there's teams that can beat the Bulls even when they don't have their stars playing, all of them, or when they've got guys out. And they're working on it, but a little ways to go before we anoint them as kings of the East or anything like that.
True. That's fair. And I love how you alluded to an elite team in the Warriors, and probably even more so an elite player by the name of Wardell, Stephen Curry, as I like to call him. I remember I did, man, another side note. I remember I was watching, I was with my mom, or no, I was with my grandmother, and we were watching the Warriors play. She loves Steph Curry. And so she didn't know that his first name's Wardell. So every time like he got the ball scored or whatever, I'm like, man, there goes Wardell. And she keeps looking at me and she's like, who's Wardell? And I'm like, oh, number 30 on the Warriors. And she's like, that's Steph. And I'm like, yeah, but I mean, his name is Wardell. And she's like, no, it's not. I'm like, Steph's his middle name. That Wardell's his first name. And she's like, oh, okay. And so I'm like, hey, you know what? It's his name. And I think, people should start calling him by Wardell. But hey, Steph's fine. But nonetheless, Steph Curry is on an MVP type level this year. I mean, obviously he's probably gonna go down as like the greatest shooter of all time. Already passed Ray Allen in total 3-pointers made, including both regular season and playoffs. He's averaging almost 30 a game. I want to say he's shooting freaking 95% from the free throw line. I don't know why. I'm like a big free throw stat kind of guy. So like, I mean, him just putting up 90% plus is just bonkers, even for him. And I mean, I think he's shooting 40% from the 3-point line as well. So, Gavin, I mean, this man's been tearing it up for 13 years now, but Steph Curry is aging like fine wine, and the Warriors are returning to form, and that's without that man Klay Thompson yet, his splash brother. So, Gavin, I mean, Steph, man, I got to hear from you.
It's scary how good this Warriors team might be right when Klay comes back, because Steph is firing on all cylinders right now. I mean, he destroyed the Bulls single-handedly. Arguably that was his best game of the season. I know he had 45 or something like that against the Clippers earlier in the year, right at the beginning, and I think he had 50 against somebody. I can't remember who. But that's right up there with one of his greatest performances in, like what you said so far. This is an MVP caliber type campaign from Steph. Look, he's really one of the greats. Like, people need to pause and enjoy Steph Curry, whether you like the Warriors. I know a lot of people don't like the Warriors anymore because they were so good and are good again, and are one of those teams now. But this guy is, I don't know, like you said, like he's making a case for being the best shooter of all time, and a lot of old heads probably won't like that. But I really think that his longevity in this league is something that's special. It's a little bit LeBron like now, and he has to create for himself in different ways, and he's just so crafty. His shot making is just unreal. And I actually didn't catch the game that he did torch the Bulls in, but I know there's people. There were a lot of Bulls fans who I saw on Twitter who were very sad that night, and just like foiled by Steph single-handedly. And that's what he'll do to you. He can do that on any given night.
Yeah, I mean, he had one shot on the wing against the Bulls where, I mean, his like signature just like, pull up. And the thing is, I'm pretty sure you saw the picture. But
yes, I
yeah,
did.
yeah, you seen the picture where ball's literally peaking. It's not even coming down yet. It's like still at its peak arc, and he's already turning away, like knowing damn well it's going in. It ended up going in, but it's just, I just feel like it encapsulates. I guess like if you know nothing about Steph Curry, you can kind of just look at that picture and just get a sense of, okay, that man knows exactly what he's doing. He knows he's a bad man and he don't care. And I mean, like you said, he'll torch you. And what he did to Brooklyn the other night, I mean, I don't know if you saw this shot, but he had gotten an inbounds pass and literally took maybe one dribble, couple steps, beyond half court, and he just like tosses it up. Like his shot just looks so effortless, and it almost hit the bottom of the net. That's the crazy part. Like, logo type shot just beyond half court, and he drains it. And before, when we when you watch basketball, seeing a shot that far, that early in a possession, you're thinking that's like the dumbest thing you do, or that's something that you do at the end of a game. Not only can he do it at any point in time in the game, like it looks good every time he throws it up. It's insane. And now the rest of the league has to deal with that, and the Warriors, and it's just, yeah,
It's unreal.
it's something.
And
Yeah.
he's hit 9 different threes he's hit 9 threes in a game 3 different times this season. Like, come on, man. What was it? Lonzo had 6 or 7 against the Lakers, and I mean, I was like, I couldn't believe it.
Right.
Steph drops 9, and it's not even a surprise to anyone.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a normal night.
He's got 37 career games where he has made 9 or more 3-pointers, and I think maybe James Harden's, I guess, the closest with maybe like 7 or 8 of those games. Steph has done it 37 times, which is just, it's nuts, man. And I think you make a great point where I think now, if you haven't, you really should now just appreciate his game, just appreciate it for what it is. Whether you were a hater of the Warriors when they were winning championships, it felt like every year. And I mean, it's something really special to watch, kind of like you said, like LeBron-esque, where we don't really know when we're ever gonna see this again. I mean, we all thought Ray Allen. I think for some people, maybe Ray Allen's 3-point record was sort of untouchable. I mean, when he broke the record that Reggie Miller once had. I remember when Ray Allen broke that record, and I was like, oh, it'll be a bit before anyone touches that record. And here is stuff like passing it up like seasons, years, but at the time that Ray Allen had hit the record, and he still got a lot more in the tank, which is just nuts, man.
It's wild. He's gonna shatter that record, and Steph's record might be one that stands for a long, long time.
Right. So I mean, that'll probably be like Joe DiMaggio type record where. Yeah. No one's gonna touch it, man. It's just gonna be one of those where we're just gonna sit and be like, man, dude, someone actually like pulled that off, and that's what we're gonna remember it for. And now switching gears, one thing that I think you and I have always remembered is the Los Angeles Lakers home, which will soon formally be known as Staples Center. I think it's December 20th, Christmas, right? That it changes to like crypto.com. Arena. Right. It was weird. Like I was going through like topics to talk about, and when I saw the news, like I think it was Shams that tweeted out that like Staples Center was gonna be no more, and I was kind of like, wait, what? And I was kind of looking at him like, oh, that's kind of weird. And I don't know, I guess for some reason, like people are talking about it, and it's just bizarre. And Staples Center has been called Staples Center for, I think, almost as long as I've been alive, since 1999. I was born in 98. Once again, exposing
me too
my age, but that's okay because Gavin's here and he's the same age as me, so it's okay.
98 game over here.
Exactly. And if Jesus is here, he'd be like, "Oh my God, you guys are such little kids." And that may be true, but you know what? It's making me feel a little old for some reason, just knowing it's gonna be called something else after you're just so used to it being Staples for so long. And honestly, it reminds me of State Farm, being changed from Assembly Hall too.
Man, that is a better comparison than most we're seeing, right? Because okay, and here's the difference, right? The Staples Center, like, yeah, it's an iconic venue. At the end of the day, it was named after a company, right? Now it's named after a different, evidently a less popular company. Cryptocurrency doesn't have very good environmental effects, but it's definitely catching on, it seems. And this, like that at the time, get this, Alex, I'm pretty sure that the State Farm Center's naming rights deal was the most lucrative at that time. And that might not be true for including all professional sports, but I'm 95% sure that is true for college sports. So it was, a deal that was worth like something in the 100 million range. This is what, 700? So the Lakers are definitely getting some value for this. I think that, my girlfriend who's from the LA suburbs is very sad about the name change, and I don't think anybody's happy about it unless you're a crypto.com user, perhaps.
Okay.
Does crypto.com, is that like a cryptocurrency in itself? Like, did that stock go way up today? I bet it did.
Right. I mean, I would hope so. I mean, my brothers, they're into the whole cryptocurrency frenzy craze, whatever you want to call it. I mean, when they talk to me about it, I just kind of sit there. I mean, I get the general idea of it, but I don't quite like, once they start getting into the logistics of all of it, because they've really gotten into it, I'm just kind of like, all right, I'm getting lost, and I don't really know how to contribute to the conversation, but maybe I might have to, now that there's a whole damn arena named after it, I guess. I don't know, but
Right? What is it in El Salvador? They're investing as a country in Bitcoin.
really get the hell out of here. I actually didn't even know that.
No, it's like their president is a big proponent. I don't know. It seems like this is the first of other things we'll be seeing like this. It doesn't mean we have to be happy about it.
Right.
And
Yeah.
calling an arena the Crypto Center in Los Angeles is already a divisive thing in
Mhm.
itself, given history. And it certainly won't help the Lakers, feel like a team that has an authentic interest in the community there.
Right.
Maybe they have an authentic interest in accumulating wealth via cryptocurrency, though. Who knows?
I guess I don't know. And people are all like, "Man, why are they changing Staples Center? It's been like that for so long." And then some people are all like, "Yo, when was the last time you been to Staples?" And I'm like, "That's actually kind of a good point. I don't remember the last time I was in Staples was when I freaking waited until the last minute to do my science fair project. My parents got mad at me, and I had to go pick up some stuff at Staples."
Hey, that is a good point, but who needs science project materials when you have to just present your science project on Zoom, right? You're definitely not assembling the same type of thing you would be in today's current climate. Pandemic took Staples down, like many others. No, I'm just kidding, though. I don't even know how Staples is doing.
Man, I like how we like this whole conversation started off like, yo, like the Lakers arena is changing names, and now we're over here trying to compare Staples to cryptocurrency. I
What do
don't
you
know.
expect? What do you expect? That's the naming rights
Right.
reality, man. It's a brutal world.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I guess because, it's the Lakers, it's Hollywood. It's just the iconicness, if that's even a word that carries along with it. I don't know. Staples Center, rest in peace. All that good
Rest
stuff.
in peace, Staples Center. Many magical basketball moments in that building.
Yep.
Guess what, people? It's okay to mourn that, but there will still be many more magical basketball moments happening in that building, which I've never been in my life.
I know, right? That's true. And I was like, I mean, it's the same building, which I mean,
Right.
I guess it'd be different if it was a completely different place or whatever. So I don't know.
I thought of
That's
a
just
comp.
me. All
Possibly
right, bet.
a better one than Illinois State Farm Center. Think about, okay, like US Cellular, like, look, I mean, it's just another company, right? And
Right.
Comiskey Park was not a company like that. That was a historical name that people were upset about.
Right.
But this feels a little bit like when the White Sox went from US Cellular and then now you have Guaranteed Rate Field. It's just like Guaranteed Rate Field, like
Yeah.
the crypto.com center. Like those things do not have a good ring to them.
No,
Staples
they
Center,
don't.
it kind of does.
Right. It's like, yes, it's a company, but I mean, it, like you said, has a nice ring to it, kind of like the United Center. I mean, it's an airline, it's a sponsor, but United Center just like it sounds cool. If you're gonna, have this multi-billion-dollar, however, crypto.com, I don't know how much it's worth, whatever, but if you're gonna like get the naming rights, I mean, at least make it sound decent, I guess. I don't know, like Crypto Arena sounds, well, I don't know. I guess it's a little bit better. I don't know. It's just, if we
The
got to get a
.com
company
in the
name.
name is never good. It's
Yeah,
never
no.
good when you have .com in the name of a sports arena.
Right. .com guaranteed like rate field, like damn dude. Like they couldn't even convince them to like make the down the arrow pointing down like a home base, which is it is what it is. But you know what? That should probably do it, because now we're gonna start really veering off into just how venues and stuff are being renamed, and we don't like it. But a very special thanks to the Gavin Good for hopping on again. Man, really appreciate it for you hopping on, man.
Absolutely, man. Anytime. Always love talking hoops. Always love talking heartless corporate acquisitions with you, my boy.
Much appreciated. For Jesus, who's on a well-deserved vacation, we miss you. We'll be back. Actually, well, not next week because we're going on Thanksgiving break, Gavin. I hope you enjoy the time with the family and
Absolutely.
a well-deserved break because I know you are a hard-working man who is making waves in the world of journalism. So, for Gavin, for myself, this has been another edition of the Basketball Fiends podcast, and I'm so used to like our normal outro that I do with Jesus that I'm trying to like think about it as I go, but it is what it is. So, deuces, everybody.